true leadership is measured not only by your present success, but by future provisions. Okay, so true leadership is not measured, only by your present success, but also by the future provisions that you are making. So it means that what makes you a true leader is not necessarily your ability to succeed today. It's not necessarily your ability to make things happen today. Okay, but it's connected to your ability to make future provisions, to make sure that the leadership, the journey, the goal, whatever dream that you are building outlives you. Okay, that is what a true leadership success is. This is second to the last of our series, and I'm going to be sharing on leading beyond now, how visionary leaders provide for the future. Okay, leading beyond now, how visionary leaders provide for the future. One of the things I would like to say is that if you are joining us for the first time, this conversation did not start today. I think this is maybe about the 12th or 13th session that I've had since we started this conversation last month. So if you are joining us for the first time, I will encourage you to go to our YouTube channel, Transformers Global. You will see more of our conversation where we started, so that you can be able to, flow with the conversation. Don't worry, if today is your first time, you will still make the best of today's conversation. But if you would like to have, a total overview of what we are, discussing, I will encourage you to go to our YouTube channel, and you will find the rest of the conversation. Okay. This conversation is guided by the story, the life character principles of Joshua in the Bible. The first time I read the book of Joshua, the more I read it, I see principles of leadership. I see principles for new and young leaders to embrace in order to, make their life, their leadership exceptional. Okay. And that is what we have been discussing these past few weeks. I make mention young and new leaders because Joshua, who was once a servant to Moses, when he received his own direct call, had to make a transition from being a follower to a leader. And those transitions, how he clarified his vision, how he clarified his intention, is very, very critical for anyone who is venturing into leadership. Like I always say, it's not just for someone who is starting out in leadership, it's for also existing leaders. It's also an opportunity for you to go back, clarify your intentions, understand why you started, and then to create a solid ground, for what you are building, which is very important. So I will encourage you to, look at some of the principles that we are sharing as only examples for you to learn from. The goal is not to teach you methods, but for you to learn from his life, his principles, what made him, exceptionally successful, areas where he had challenges and areas where he struggled, so that you can be informed better, to make a greater decision, for your generation. I believe that every person who is existing in our generation is still alive for a purpose, is still alive for something that is unique that you are supposed to do for this generation. The story of Joshua is a good place to begin, to learn what it takes to achieve your vision, to achieve your success, to do something that is outstanding for your generation. So today we are going to be looking at leading beyond now, how visionary leaders provide for the future. Okay. When I study, leaders across the world, when I study nations across the world, when I study, what makes nations nations, one of the books I'm going through now is titled "Why the West Rules for Now," and the writer was trying to show why nations were successful, how nations started, how they continue to build, and why many of them, even though you can look back into history, you discover that they were successful and they are still successful today. Okay. And you discover that, people did not become successful by chance. Nations did not become successful by chance, but they started with intentional leadership, but more so leadership that thinks about the future. Okay. And it is very important for me to start this conversation from there. not just not just intentional leadership, but leadership that is concerned about the future, concerned about leaving a legacy, concerned about continued leadership. Okay, and that is why we are having this conversation. I would like you to write this thing down. True leadership is measured not only by your present success, but by future provisions. Okay, so true leadership is not measured, only by your present success, but also by the future provisions that you are making. So it means that what makes you a true leader is not necessarily your ability to succeed today. It's not necessarily your ability to make things happen today, okay? But it's connected to your ability to make future provisions, to make sure that the leadership, the journey, the goal, whatever dream that you are building outlives you, okay? That is what a true leadership success is. In fact, when you go to the Bible, the scripture was making an illustration. It said every man's work will be tested. Okay, so it's saying that so you can have momentary success, you can have success now, but when that success, is tested, will it stand? And one of the ways, through the Bible, through life, that we understand a leadership can go through tests is time. Okay, when you subject leadership to time, you will discover whether it is successful or not. One key biblical way of testing is by giving things time. So what I believe the scripture is saying is that when your leadership is given time, when your leadership is examined over a period of time, will it stand or will it fall? Okay, so for instance, when the Bible says that if you listen to my words, you are like someone who is building on a rock, but if you don't listen and follow my words, you are building on the sand. It said when the wind comes, when the weather beats it. So it's something that is going to happen through time. So momentarily it looks successful. It looks that things are going the way it should go, but over time the cracks begin to reveal. The lack of principle begins to reveal itself, and that is when you really know whether this is true success or whether it is fake success. So I want you to have a redefined posture when it comes to understanding what leadership is about. And I want you to view leadership in the aspect of time. Okay, is it going to thrive? Is it going to live beyond you? And as we go deeper, I'm going to also share the mindset of leadership that ensures that it travels through time. Okay, but before we go that the principles I'm going to be sharing with you, I took it from the book of Joshua chapter 23. If you read from verse 1 to end, you see Joshua making provisions for the future. Okay. First thing he did is that he assembled all the leaders, all the elders, he called them together, and then he began to have conversations with them. Some of the conversations, first of all, he started by reminding them what they have been able to accomplish all these years, what they have been able to build, what God has been able to do with them. Okay. And then he started, moving further to remind them the instructions of Moses. Now, whenever you read the scripture and you see leaders talk about the instructions of Moses, most of us usually look at the instructions of Moses as the 10 Commandments, okay? But when you look at the instructions of Moses, it's beyond just the 10 Commandments. It's about 600 and something laws. Moses was the first in biblical time to craft a constitution for the land, okay? Moses wrote about sanitation, he wrote about agriculture, he wrote about environment, he wrote about murder, he wrote about, even civil rights. When they questioned about whether women should own land or who receives inheritance, what happens to slave labor, what about wages? Whenever people talk about Moses, they always talk about, the fact that he went to Mount Sinai and then he came back with tablets, or that he built the ark and he built the tabernacle, or the power of God, or the Red Sea. One aspect that is often neglected in the life and principles of Moses is the fact that Moses was a nation builder. In fact, I think Moses was more of a nation builder than just a spiritual leader. Okay, so the goal of his spiritual leadership is for nation building. Okay, let me say that again. The goal of Moses' spiritual leadership is nation building. So I believe personally that every form of spiritual leadership must translate to nation building. Okay, spirituality is the means, but the end point is nation building. So by virtue of spending time with God, he discovered solutions that should guide the design of nations. And that is why I am always concerned when people's basis of conversation with God is about their house, about their car, about their immediate needs. Your conversation with God, yes, it can provide for your basic needs, but the goal is for nation building. The goal is for you to build something that outlives you, something that lasts, something that leaves a legacy behind. Okay, so why it's important for God to make provisions for you as his creation, as his child. You must also understand that there is a purpose behind the calling. There's a purpose behind the vision. There's a purpose behind your life. And it is that your life must ultimately transform your society. God said to Adam, replenish, multiply, govern, take care. Okay, so it's not just talking about what you will eat. Yes, he told him, you can eat this, you can eat that. But beyond that, I want you to govern. I want you to be in charge. I want you to contribute to national affairs, contribute to issues about the nation. And that was what Moses did. Okay, so when Joshua was consolidating, his exit from leadership, he reminded them of the principles that Moses outlined that should govern the nation. He was trying to help them understand. And you see that Joshua was not just talking about maybe spiritual laws. He moved immediately and started talking to them about customs. Okay, started talking to them about traditions, telling them, no, we have our customs. We have the principles we live by. Don't go and copy the customs and traditions of the other nations, because those customs and traditions are going to lead to your downfall. He spoke to them about marriage. He spoke to them, about different things. He gave them the land that they are going to use as a city of refuge. Okay, many people don't understand that even the word asylum came from, city of refuge. When Christians began to get involved in designing nations, they started creating city of refuge. They started creating the very first council, Geneva. Geneva is known for, world conversations. But when you read the history of Geneva, that city was transformed by Christians. And that was when they started, of course, when they were advocating for issues about, making people free, who were slaves, creating opportunity for people who are fleeing, persecutions. People opened out their houses for strangers. They built homes, built houses for strangers in order to, keep them safe, take care of them, provide for them while they are running from harm and danger from different nations. That's how, those conversations started happening. The goal of Christianity, the end point of Christianity, is that we will be able to consolidate the values that govern nations, that transforms nations. And Joshua's conversation with them is, you can see, is beyond their personal needs. It's talking about, you see, God has made you to succeed. I want you guys to continue to succeed, but here are things that you must do. Okay, so Joshua did not just start. Joshua did not just win. Here we discover that Joshua is trying to consolidate his success. He's trying to set a posture to the things that will guide and make the nation a success. So currently, right now, I'm going to quickly move into mindset that shapes visionary leadership that provides for the future. So if you're going to be a leader that is consciously going to not just provide leadership for now, but for the future, there are mindsets that must shape your action. Okay, the very first one I want to mention is that you must understand that leadership is multi-generational. Okay, so it's a marathon, a relay marathon, not a sprint. Okay, so leadership is multi-generational. So what it means is that, your leadership is not going to end in your time. It's not going to end in your generation. So understanding that makes you to know and understand that there is something for the future. So you are not just building for now. Many people believe that they are just, you remember the story of the man who said that he has expanded his barn, he has built, he has gotten wealth, that will keep him for the rest of his life, that he's just going to sit, marry, and enjoy his wealth. And God said to him, foolish man, your life is demanded of you tonight. And that was how he left the earth, because he didn't understand that the purpose of wealth, is simply a means to an end and not an end itself. So your leadership, whatever you are doing today, wherever you find yourself, it is supposed to outlive you. It's supposed to continue long after you have gone. That is why when you look back, you will hear of leaders who made impact. You will hear of leaders who passed through the sands of time. They came, and at a point they were no more. Another came, at a point they were no more. The same way you are here today, you are trying to build a business, you are trying to build an organization. One day you will no longer be there. Understanding that shapes your mindset, shapes your consciousness, that you must be a multi-generational leader. And once you begin to understand that leadership is multi-generational, it changes how you do things. Okay? Even in terms of parenting, you are not going to be there forever as a parent. You're not going to be there forever, So it means that over a season, you provide leadership. Okay? Then whoever you provide the leadership for takes the mantle, takes the baton, provide leadership for their own time. And that is how generations after generations emerge. And they are able to utilize whatever the previous generation left behind for a future generation. When you look at Africa, for instance, you will see that most of our leaders don't think in multi-generational terms. They are not thinking about the future. And the danger to that is whatever the previous generation left behind, that becomes the landmark, that becomes the landing pad for the next generation to pick up from. So without knowing, a previous generation can set up a future generation for a major fall. They can set up a future generation for a major disaster, simply because they did not understand that leadership must be multi-generational. Okay, I'm looking at some of the things happening in America today. Some of the policies that Donald Trump is setting up. Many people are not his fans. Many people don't like some of the things that he's trying to do. But for me, each time I listen, each time I look, most times the conversations is not just about him or about him trying to be popular or trying to exert his power or who he is. Usually it's about the future generation. When I listen to the conversation, they are talking about the future generation. Now they are talking about every American child and any child born in America to have investment account. They are talking about companies that are manufacturing outside America, coming back to create job, building a base, expanding the manufacturing sector within America, so that the future generation of America can have something that they can fall back. Okay, they are beginning to lose technology. United Kingdom has almost lost. Europe is almost losing technology. Away from them, some of the things they created, some of the things that they were responsible for, they are almost losing it to other nations, because they are not responsible about protecting what they have for the future generation. And that's what I see happening in America. The revolution happening in America is that they are looking for ways to preserve some of the things that they were known for: science, innovation, art and craft. And I see leadership that is concerned about the future. I see leadership that is concerned about what happens 10 years from now, 20 years from now, where will our nation be? And you can see that mindset will not only help them today, but it sets a platform for whatever generation that will come to build upon. Okay? So whatever you are doing, the moment you start a business, the moment you start an organization, the mindset I want you to have is that this is going to be multi-generational. Then it begins to change the way you think. It begins to change the way you approach leadership, the way you see people, the way you see resources. Everything changes, because you know that you are not just building for this generation, you are building for another generation. The second one I want to also mention is that the leadership mindset that makes provision for future sees themselves as stewards, not owner. Okay, so if you are an owner, there is a tendency for you to keep. There's a tendency for you to see yourself in the picture. There's a tendency for you to begin to look at yourself as somebody who will reap the reward. Okay, I am suffering and I need to enjoy. You begin to have some certain kind of mindset of entitlement, because you believe that there's something that you are building for yourself. No. A leader that thinks and plans for the future understands that they are only stewards. So it means that I have something today because previous generation were able to pass it down. So it is now my responsibility as a steward to manage what I receive now, to manage those resources, possibly multiply it, and then hand it over to the next generation better. So I am only a steward. I only inherited the struggle. I only inherited whatever the previous generation have been doing, and now my job is to preserve it, protect it, expand and multiply it, so that the next generation can find it better. And that was what happened in the case of Moses. Okay, Moses handed over leadership to Joshua, anointed Joshua. God, gave him the vision, commissioned his calling, and Joshua took whatever he was received, went into the promised land, and made sure he was not concerned about his personal success. He was not working as someone who wants to be an eternal king. No, he knew that I am responsible for betting this vision, for sharing this land for the people of Israelites, and that was what he lived the rest of his life doing till the day he died. He kept on even talking and reminding them of the vision. The third thing is that you must understand that leadership is seasonal. Leadership is seasonal. So you are only a leader for a season. It means another season is going to come and you are not going to be a leader. I wish anybody will remind this to all African leaders, whether they are governors, whether they are local government chairman, anywhere they find themselves. I wish they will remember very early in the morning. I've forgotten a Roman leader. Each time he's walking in the street, people are going to be hailing him. They will be hailing him, oh great leader, oh great leader. But he hired somebody behind him. He hired a servant that always follow him. Each time each time he walks in the street and people begin to praise him, how great he is. The leader, the young servant he hired will whisper something to his ears. And later they were sharing the story that what the young servant was whispering to his ears is telling him, remember you are a human. Remember you are a human. So each time they praise him, the guy will come and say, remember you are a human. You are a seasonal person. Okay? If not that death teaches us in seasons, okay? But death is not the best example, is the fact that you are going to lead today and tomorrow you are not going to lead. That is why when leaders don't understand that, they want to hold on to power. They want to hold on to leadership. They want to be there for the rest of their life. They see someone who is better than them. They are not able to make a transition simply because they don't think, that they want to let go. They don't understand that this is seasonal. I'm having this conversation today. I'm not going to have it tomorrow. Somebody else is going to have that conversation. Time is going to come when even if I'm speaking, it will look like I'm not speaking, because there's another young voice who understands these things, who can teach it better, who has found innovative way to expand it, and they are going to rise and I'm going to fall. Falling might not be the right way to say it, but you are going to give way. John the Baptist exemplified that. He knew the time of the season of his leadership has come to pass and another must rise. And the moment Jesus showed up, he said, I must decrease, he must increase. Yes, I had my time, but now is no longer my time. Somebody else has to move. You must understand that leadership is seasonal. So that means that the moment you have it, whatever you have, whatever you are doing, whatever you can do, you must understand that at this point in time, you have opportunity to do that. Time is going to come, days is going to come, and you will not be able to do that. Okay, many of us think that we have eternity to live. Many of us think that we have eternity. Some of you have a vision in your heart that you're supposed to do. You have a goal in your heart that you're supposed to do. But you keep dragging your feet, I will do it next year. I will do it in 2 years' time, because you think you are going to live till 80. I always tell young people when I see them, Jesus, the Son of God, died at 33. If you have lived more than 33, congratulations. The way some people claim long life. I've met people that will tell me, I'm going to live 100 years, I'm going to live 120 years, I'm going to live 80 years. Awesome, beautiful, okay? But live every day like it's your last. Live the next 1 year as if it's your last. Stop dragging your feet on your vision. You want to build a business, start the business. You want to impact young people, impact young people. You want to change your nation, start changing your nation. Don't live like you are going to live forever. Leadership is seasonal. And most times what happens is that while you are delaying and dragging your feet, a new generation comes up that is supposed to replace you, and you are there struggling your space with them because you don't know that your own time has passed. So you see African leaders, sometimes you meet governors of some states, they have 8 years. Okay, even before you go into that power, the constitution had already said you have 8 years, not even 8 years, 4 years. You have to win it a second time to make it 8 years. Okay, you have 4 years. You go in, you have 4 years to stay. You have to come out for somebody else to go in. And sometimes many people start realizing what they are supposed to do in the last year. The Bible said, woe unto you if your king is a child. He said, why? He said, because they eat in the morning. They don't know, the way of leadership. They don't understand the craft of leadership, and they are not able to make the best of it. So you must understand that leadership is seasonal. You are not going to be there every day. You are not going to lead every day. That business you are thinking of starting, you are not going to, start it every day. I remember when I wrote my first book. One day my number was on the book, and one man called me. He said, can I talk to you? I said, yes. Booked an appointment. He's an elderly man, so I had to go and see him. And he took me to the business he was starting. The business has folded. He opened it, and we sat in front of there. And he was talking to me. He was telling me that I used to have dreams. I used to have things I wanted to do. He said, this is my business. I struggled. I didn't maximize some of the opportunities I had. I felt I was young. Now, I'm telling you a real life story. He said, now I'm old. He said, I used to have visions. I was reading the book. I saw some of the things you wrote. This you are saying the truth. He said, but I'm old now. Okay? It is seasonal. You are not going to be young forever. You feel energetic. You feel all over the world. Yes, but it's not going to last long. These things have seasons. The Bible said there are times and seasons for everything. You must understand that leadership is seasonal. The fourth one I want to mention to you is that when you have a mindset of building for the future and not just now, then people become your investment, not your project or your success. Okay? So what I've also realized, even from the principles and life of Joshua, is that he focused on building people. He focused on building individuals. You also see that in the life of David. The goal is to invest in people. So because you know that first, leadership is seasonal, because you know that, of course, I'm not going to be here forever. I'm not going to be having this conversation forever. Then your focus then shifts from the success that you are pursuing, from the project that you are pursuing, to people. So you now intentionally invest in people. You now intentionally grow people, not just growing the organization. Of course, great leaders understand that when you grow people, you have grown the organization. But you see, when you are thinking about the future, the thing that will be in your mind is, okay, if I'm not going to be here forever, okay, who is going to be here forever? Or when I'm gone, what happens? Many people don't think in that direction. They think it's all about them. And then all of a sudden they are no more, and there is nobody, to carry on with what they are building. So you see people as your investment. A leader who is thinking about future sees people as an investment, not their project and not their success. So where you invest, where you put your time in, shows whether you are thinking about the future or you are thinking about, now. I always use Africa as an example. For instance, I was listening to somebody, and he was talking about how they have policies that will change Nigeria, policies that will change their state. And I said the number one policy for anybody who wants to bring about transformation in Africa must be education. Must be education. If you don't prioritize education, your nation is going nowhere. Simply saying, if you don't invest in your human capital, if you don't find a way to even keep or attract quality human capital, your nation has no direction. Your nation has no future. I always tell people, sometimes you hear about visa lottery, or you hear that the university in America is giving scholarship. And I will ask them, do you think that those things come by chance? They are looking for brains. The same way they used to have ships to come to Africa, and they will check those who are healthy, those who are strong, those who are young, people who are fit enough to work in plantations. They don't take our older men. They don't take those who are too young. They take those who are in their youthful age. They have strength. They can contribute to the economy, because at that time, the economy is a hunter and gatherer age. It's about agriculture, cotton plantations. So you need energy to be able to do that. When that time has passed, this is the age of knowledge. So what are they looking for? They are looking for people who can think. My sister's son wrote WAEC. He had straight A's. A university in America has given him full scholarship. Everything paid for. Boarding, everything paid for. He's now in America studying. He sent a picture, a conversation the other day. He's even getting involved in leading students, you see, he is bright. He is young. He is eloquent. He can command respect. But guess where he's living? He's living his American dream. The nation where he was born can't even retain that human capital. It should tell you that they are not making any plan for the future. So the ones you have, you can keep. The ones who have left, you can't bring them back. It tells you that there is no future, there is no plan, there is no quality intention to shape the people who are going to make the future what it is. Okay? So the moment you begin to start a business, the moment you begin to grow any organization, I first want to find out, are you investing in people, or are you more concerned about your project and your success? The fifth thing I want to mention to you, oh wow, I've not even gone half into my teaching. The fifth thing I want to mention to you is you focus on legacy, not your limelight. It's not about visibility. It's not about showing up. It's not about, being seen in social media as somebody who is building something. No. It's about consolidating on your legacy. It's about consolidating secretly. Sometimes you do it in a hiding. You begin to consolidate, no noise. So that by the time the leadership emerges, people are going to be wondering, where is this thing coming from? You consolidate. Your focus is on your legacy, not whether people are celebrating you or recognizing you. No. Okay. The sixth one is you have a seed sowing mentality. A seed sowing mentality. One of the reasons why Africa can build for the future is that every leader wants to build something that they will celebrate in their time. Every governor, every president wants to build something that they will commission before they leave office. You see, that commissioning mindset, let me build a road that we can commission now. Nobody is thinking about, let me start a project that will yield fruit in the next 10 years. So the seed sowing mindset is not there. They are looking at what will benefit me now. Nobody is looking at, can I build a vision that will outlive me? Can I build a vision that in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, that is when we might even start seeing the results of that vision? No, they want it now. Let me do it now so that it benefits me now. One of the things that helped the ANC struggle, when I was in South Africa, I took time to study ANC. That was when I realized that, Mandela shouldn't be the only person celebrated when it comes to the ANC struggle. The people that should be celebrated are people like Walter Sisulu, those guys who existed before Mandela. They were getting older, and one day Mandela came, a young lawyer who opened a firm, saw the ANC struggle, took interest that the people are struggling. He's a lawyer, he needs to contribute something. From there, he came, made a speech. They made him a youth leader. And one day, as a youth leader, they were like in a meeting, and he stood up and spoke. The moment Mandela finished talking, he saw himself as somebody who is just doing normal contribution in a meeting, sat down. At the end of those meetings, those ANC leaders went inside, gathered, and had a conversation. And they told themselves that if this struggle must succeed, that Mandela is the future. You see, leadership, they were not saying, no, it must be me. They said, if this struggle must succeed, Mandela is the future. And that's when they called him, handed over leadership to him, and then he led South Africa successfully through that struggle. And today, they are celebrating of breaking free from apartheid. You can't talk about the success of that nation without talking about Nelson Mandela. So, a future mindset is talking about how do I sow a seed, even if I'm not there to reap it. It can be like a mango tree that starts bearing fruit after maybe 10 or 15 years. You don't care because you know a future generation is going to benefit. And the last one I want to mention in terms of the mindset is that there's a delayed gratification. I've mentioned a bit about it. There's a delayed gratification. There's a delay in trying to satisfy yourself. Some leaders all their life can make a sacrifice and never see the promise. When you read Hebrews 11, one of the things that forms who I am is the book of Hebrews chapter 11. I find it hard to say that I have a scripture that is the best. But one of my best scriptures in the Bible, one of my best chapters, if I have to put it that way, is Hebrews 11. Most times I go there intentionally read it, to revive myself. One of the things that strikes me about that, you will see, they will tell you, by faith God created the world. So they're talking about Abraham's faith. They talked about Abel's faith. Talked about Moses' faith. They talked about, all the people, all the patriarchs, all the people who made impact in their generation. He says some even died, some were sawn into two. Some were buried alive, some were all manner of things were dead to them. And the Bible ended by saying that, but they never received the promise. They never received the promise. That means they were not even there to eat the fruit of their labor. They were only laboring for a future generation. Do we still have leaders today who labor for a future generation? Do we still have leaders in Africa, leaders in Nigeria, who will sacrifice personal success, sacrifice even personal gratification just because they want to sacrifice for the future? Do we even have leaders who will die today so that the future can be preserved? If we have leaders with that kind of mindset, I can tell you, Africa will not be the way it is. Some people in leadership position, you approach them and you tell them, you are not making the right decision. And they will tell you, do you want me to do it so that they will kill me? They are concerned about preserving themselves. If you don't want them to kill you, then why did you accept the leadership position in the first place? You make it look like, this is a dangerous position. Man has to be careful. Well, if it's a dangerous position, then bow out. You can't be there making wrong decisions and then you justify it in the name of personal preservation. We don't have leaders who will delay gratification, make the necessary sacrifice that is required to make their nation to emerge. And that lack of mindset is what keeps many people at their individual level, keeps families, keeps societies not able to have true success that is multi-generational. Okay, so whether you are building a business, whether you are building a family, whether you are building an organization, your mindset will determine if it will outlive you or not. So I give an example with leadership in Africa, leadership all over the nation of the world, both the third world and the first world nations. When you see the mindset that controls each nation, you will understand why they are great. One of the stories that shaped my life as a young person when I was in the university is reading from Third World to First by Lee Kuan Yew. I went to a leadership seminar and they recommended the book. I went and bought it, a very big book, about 700 and something pages. As I sift through those pages, you see step by step where Lee Kuan Yew was making a decision for the future and not for the present. He was constantly, you will even see how he started. He started by education. From education, he started talking about security. He started talking about investment and economy. He was making decisions. He started by building a political party, strengthening a group of people, with the same mindset. And then gradually they began to shape their nation. Gradually, you go back today. In fact, I will recommend everyone who can find that story. One of the things I find interesting was that when Lee Kuan Yew was traveling all over the world looking for countries to build partnership with, each time I read that part of that book, it breaks my heart, it saddens me. I think I even wrote a portion of it in my book. Lee Kuan Yew said that he came to Nigeria. When you read the book, you won't even know the difference. You will think that Lee Kuan Yew is describing what is happening today. He said, first of all, when he landed in Lagos, that there were military people everywhere, that you from each place you go to, from one main road to another, you will just see military roadblocks, checking people and all that. He's describing something that happened in 1960s. And when I was reading the book, it felt like he was talking about Nigeria today. But one of the things that shocked me is that he said that after visiting Nigeria, he saw leaders who had no plan for the future. He said he could not partner with Nigeria, he could not do anything with Nigeria because he saw leaders. He even started describing how a Nigerian foreign minister, in that book, something that happened in 1960s, about 1962, 1963, after our independence, he came to Nigeria because Nigerian fame grew all over the world. That's where we started getting that title, Giant of Africa. For some reason, after our independence, our fame grew all over the world. So nations became interested. A lot of people were paying a visit. Lee Kuan Yew also paid a visit. He narrated a story that Nigerian foreign minister, he opened a factory for shoes and sandals, and he now shut down every other form of importation of any kind of thing in Nigeria just for his own business to grow. He was describing it in the book. He was mentioning things that our politicians were doing, things that he noticed that they were doing, and he felt that he can't build partnership with these people. And he moved on. Look at his nation today. Look at Nigeria. Nothing has changed over time. Why? Because we keep producing leaders with the same mindset, handing over to the next generation with the same mindset, and we can see that Nigeria has been set up generationally to fail. Unless a form of new leadership comes in, replaces that, and then begin to provide for the future. Common pitfalls that, kill future provision. One is living in reaction mode instead of strategic mode. So what I mean by that is, you live only to react now. You are not strategic. Okay? I'm building an organization. Each time I have conversation with my leaders, I always tell them we are building for the future. We are not building for now. Forget whatever is going on in Nigeria. Let it happen. Nigeria has spoiled. It has spoiled. We can't do anything now, but we can plan for the future. And I keep reminding them to let them know that, yes, we are struggling, things are not, but we are not thinking about now. We are being strategic. We are thinking about the future. We are thinking about the next 10 years. Whenever we have meeting, I always remind them, we are thinking about the next 10 years. I'm not talking about now. Leave whatever is happening. Ignore Tinubu, ignore whoever the governor, no problem. We are thinking about the future. Let's be strategic, let's be intentional. Let's focus on our game. Future provision is strategic. Okay? Also, neglecting to train the next generation. Every organization I run, the thing I always think in my mind is, who is the next leader? Who is the next leader? Okay, now I've gotten this person. Okay, after this one, who is the next? When you neglect to train the next generation, you are failing to provide for the future. Consuming resources instead of multiplying them. So anything that comes, you want to consume it. You want it to benefit you for now. You're not thinking about how do you multiply resources so that they can benefit the future. Failing to prepare for inevitable change or crisis. Okay, so things are going to happen in the future. You see what is happening in America today. I think Apple just made a commitment in the White House recently to invest, I think it was about $600 billion in the next 4 years into different cities in America, producing their own glass. They want to roll out a plan. In the next 4 years, all their phones will be manufactured in America. People were saying it's not going to be possible, but it's beginning to be possible. Why? They are looking at the future. They are looking about American future. They are looking at how to control their power base, which is technology innovation. They are consolidating because they want to take care of future crises that will hit the world. Okay? So, last thing I'm going to mention to you, practicals for providing for the future. The first one, you can just mention it. The first one is have a long-term vision, have a long-term plan. Okay, you can't have a short-term plan. In our first class in e-course, we start talking to you about having a long-term plan. And I said any human being that is living on earth, the minimum plan you should have for yourself is 7-year plan. Every 7 years you renew it. Have a 7-year plan. Okay? I take it is biblical. There are places in the Bible where you see the patterns of 7. And that's where I adopted, because of time I won't be able to go into it. That's how I adopted that you must have minimum of 7-year plan. But if you can, plan the rest of your life. Okay? Build people before you build projects. Focus on people, not your projects. The next one is look at your systems. Okay, are you creating systems? Don't just create an organization. What systems are you putting in place, that will guide that organization? The fourth one is document and preserve your wisdom. Do documentation. Okay, do documentation. Everything you do must be documented, so that by the time the future generation comes, they will be able to see where you guys started and how far you have gone. When you read the book of Joshua, even in that book of Joshua chapter 23, you will hear the Bible will say that it was documented. It was documented. They were documenting Joshua's action. The lands, as they were sharing it, everything they were doing, they were documenting it. Their manuals, their teachings, their legacy, resources, everything must be documented. And the last one I want to mention before we close is that you must preserve the core values of that organization. It means that first of all, you must identify what you are building, what are the values that is driving what you are building, and you must make sure that you protect those values so that people do not drift away from the vision. People begin to drift away from the vision when they drift away from the values that guide that organization. Okay, thank you so much. I know my time is up, and I know you have taken something great out of this conversation. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. Please do follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Transformers Global LC, on Twitter X at TGlobalLC.